Hello everyone, welcome to the Google Students channel. We have a global audience joining us today. We have students from here in Europe, Middle East, Africa, United States and Canada, where it's still morning, but big thank you to each of you for joining. I'm Madhuri, I'm a Googler based out of our Google office in London, and I work closely with students as well as on the scholarship program. With me are two amazing scholars from 2015. I have with me on the extreme left Luana. Luana is currently pursuing her PhD on natural language processing at the University of Cambridge. And I have here in the center Alma. Alma is a Googler and she's working on Google Play here in London, and she is also a scholar. So these are the two people right in front of me, and in the background we have three chat moderators. We have Regan, Emily and Maya, and they will be answering all your questions live. In fact, they've already started answering a bunch of questions, so you probably don't need an introduction. Keep asking those questions and telling us where you've dialed in from, and meanwhile I will take you through the agenda. So we will be talking about the scholarship program and applications as well. Our scholars over here will be telling us how you can submit a stronger application, and they'll also be going through their own experience as scholars. And we'll flip it over to you from there, and you can tell us what questions do you have, and we'll try taking as many as possible live as well. So yes, we're live from London. Let's get started. The scholarship was started in the memory of Dr. Anita Bogue, and last year we joined forces with Women Tech Makers organization, and that gave our scholars more access to resources as well as a network of not just students but also industry professionals. And we may have collaborated, but our vision of the scholarship has not changed. It still remains to increase more women in computer science and the field of technology. A lot of you are at university, and given that the field you're in, you probably face different challenges. It could be the lack of support from your peers or the lack of support from professors. It could also be that you feel like you're a minority in the field that you're in. So why don't you start telling us a little bit about the dynamics of your current situation? Tell us on live chat, and meanwhile, I will go through the elements of the scholarship. So for some of you, the scholarship is probably new. So let me repeat the four elements that it entails. The first is that you do get a tuition stipend as part of the scholarship. And it does not end there. You also get to be a part of an all-expense paid retreat at a Google office. These retreats are separate for students at Europe, Middle East, Africa, and for students in United States and Canada, there's a separate one. But outside the tuition fee and the retreat, our support doesn't end. We continue supporting you through the resources that we have here at Google and through our Women Tech Makers organizations, so that you can continue with community initiatives in your country, and also have a lifetime support of people that you get to know through the scholarship. And I'm also going to speak a little bit about the scholarship application process. So quick reminders of who is eligible for the scholarship. If you are a female student and you are studying computer engineering, computer science, or any related fields, then you are eligible for the scholarship. But remember, at the same time, you should either be intending to or already be enrolled at a university for the 2018-2019 academic year. And you should be intending or already enrolled in an institution across Europe, Middle East, Africa, United States, and Canada as well. For our friends back in Asia, we will have a scholarship open for you early next year for 2018, and that's when you will be able to apply with us. I'm sure Alma and Luana would agree with me when I say that the two most important factors that we look for in a potential scholar are leadership and also passion for increasing the number of women in computer science. That was a short introduction on the scholarship. Now let's get to know our scholars over here a little better. Can both of you tell me how you got interested in computer science? Maybe tell us a little bit about how old were you when you realized this is what I want to do, and tell me about, and our audience about what sort of person you looked up to in STEM. So we can start with you, Luana.
Sure. So I actually got interested in science and technology through my love for maths. My first encounter with math contests was when I was in primary school, so I must have been around 8 years old. And that was just pure excitement. The feeling of accomplishment I got when I was solving a math problem was really huge, and it quickly became very addictive. So in terms of finding role models in STEM, I was actually very fortunate, and I didn't have to look too far. Both of my parents are engineers, so I would say that they were my role models in STEM whilst I was growing up.
Great, so family of engineers. What about you, Alma?
Well, I actually love math since I was very, very little. And when I grew up, I didn't have a computer at home. So whenever I used someone else's computer, I thought it was fantastic. Whatever I did change with the computer would do back to me. And when I actually got my first computer at the age of 11, I started trying to tweak some things, nothing very serious, and then learn how to make websites. And I think it was maybe when I was 14 that I realized I wanted to study computer science. So then in high school, I took a course to learn how to code. And in terms of having role models, nobody in my close circle was in STEM, but I was very fortunate that my grandparents, who had just a basic level of education but really loved mathematics, would teach me and would give me harder and harder problems. So when I said that I was going to study computer science, everyone in my family was very supportive.
So from not having a computer to actually now working at Google, you've come a long way. Could you tell me, Alma, to begin with, what your experience has been as a Women Tech Maker Scholar? Of course, when we started the scholarship, it was Anita Bogue Scholarship for you. But what has it been like in the last few years?
I think what I liked the most when I got the scholarship was the retreat that you were talking about in the Google office, because that's where I got to meet all the other scholars like Luana and got to really get inspired by them. And after that, I kept in touch with all of them, but I also met other scholars from other regions and other years to the scholars community, and those people are just fantastic. So I think that's the really best thing.
The retreat, absolutely. What about you, Luana?
Yeah, I mean, I fully agree with Alma, and I think the greatest thing about the scholarship is the community and the sense of belonging that you get from being a scholar. So you can find people that you relate to, and I think that's really important. So when I participated in the Scholars Retreat, we participated together in 2015, I felt so happy and inspired to meet all these amazing women, and there's a particular moment I remember when, I walked into the room, I met everyone, we spent a few days together, and then it just clicked that I was part of these amazing group of women. So that kind of gave me more confidence, and it's a moment I cherish and I go back to whenever I need a small boost in confidence.
That's great to hear. So a sense of community automatically comes with being a scholar as well.
Yeah.
So both of you seem very happy with what you're doing currently in life, and you are scholars from 2015, and from then until now, as well as when you did become a scholar, you had a fairly interesting career path. And right now, like I mentioned, Alma, you are working here at Google, and Luana, you are pursuing your PhD in Cambridge. Can you tell me a little bit about how you managed to actually attain those goals, as well as what career path you took? To begin with, Luana, do you want to share something?
Yes, sure. So I'm currently finishing up my PhD or my doctoral studies at the Department of Computer Science and Technology at the University of Cambridge, as you mentioned. So how I got there, as I previously said, I quite enjoyed maths ever since I was young, and kind of following that passion made me end up where I am today. I ended up in a special math and computer science high school class when I was back in Romania, and that's how I discovered programming. And I fell in love with it. So my next logical step was to pursue a degree in computer science. So I did that at the University of Leicester when I moved to the UK. Now when I finished my bachelor's degree, I had this feeling that I would like to do a PhD or research, but I wasn't sure whether I'm ready to commit the next 4 years of my life to that. What I did was I pursued a master's at Cambridge in computer science, and that was mostly focused towards research. I got to test before I buy. That master's was amazing. It kind of got me to discover NLP, which is natural language processing, the field I'm doing my PhD in. I actually met my advisor, my PhD supervisor, who was teaching one of the courses. I fell in love with the institution, and I decided to actually stay on for a PhD. Here I am today, 4 years later, almost ready for the next step.
Very exciting. And Alma, what about you? How did you end up being a software engineer at Google?
Well, I actually never planned to do this. As I said, when I was in high school, I fell in love with computer science. I decided that that was what I wanted to study in university. And then I found out about this joint program where I could get a bachelor's in computer science and a bachelor's in mathematics in 5 years. So I went for that. And when I finished my bachelor's at the Autonomous University of Madrid, I decided that I wanted to continue learning about how to use technology to actually better help users. And I went for a master's in human-computer interaction at Chalmers University, which is in Sweden. And it was right at that time that I was contacted by someone at Google to interview for an internship position. And I did an internship here at the London office on the Android Studio team, and that was actually the same summer that I got the scholarship. And after that, when I finished my master's, I converted to a full-time position at Google, which is where I work.
All right, so two very different yet interesting paths over there. Thank you for sharing. So one of the elements of the scholarship that I had mentioned earlier was getting support from all of us here from the Women Tech Makers organization to actually organize those community outreach initiatives in your respective countries. So can you tell us about your experiences of organizing such initiatives? Luana, do you want to start with how that was?
Sure. So even before being a scholar, I was and still am involved with Women at CL, which is an organization based at the University of Cambridge, Department of Computer Science, and it provides kind of local and national activities for women engaged in computing research. And we want to create this sense of community that we were earlier talking about. There's a bunch of events that happen throughout the academic year, ranging from social events to tech talks, and even a huge conference that we organize at the end of the academic year. So that's kind of one way I was and still am involved in community outreach. And then the second example I can give is the project we undertook whilst being a scholar. So a bunch of us got together and we had this idea to encourage teenagers to not drop mathematics from their curricula while still in high school, which sometimes is the case in the UK because people can choose what they want to study later on. So we wanted to show how important math is for kind of your future career, and it just opens up the range of things you can do. So we launched a YouTube channel which is called She STEMs, where we interviewed a bunch of really amazing women, asking them how they got to what was their career path, what sort of subjects they took in school, and what they do with computers. So we wanted to just prove that computer science is just so broad and that maths help them reach their goal, and I hope we have changed or impacted a few people like that.
I've heard the results of that, and I'm sure you did. What about you, Alma?
Well, when I got the scholarship, also a group of us got together to work on a project. And what we focused on was trying to teach high school students what computer science is, because it often is the case that they don't know, so they can't make an informed decision when they go into university to actually study that. And we created these tutorials on how to create an Android app that they could follow, and then they could install the app on their phones for high school students. And we were across many different countries across Europe, but we still decided we wanted to have on-site workshops and work with actual students in schools. And I think we held workshops with over 300 people. So it was pretty cool to get students excited with their apps. And actually the year before, there was a group of scholars who worked on a project called Learn IT Girl, which was a mentorship program to help women learn a new programming language by working on an open source project together with a mentor who might be somewhere else. And I got involved in that project as a mentor the year before I got the scholarship. And then I took the lead the year after. And now someone else is continuing. So I think it's a great example of how something that is born in the scholarship program can then continue growing year after year.
Absolutely. So it's great to hear that initiatives both of you started have not been, died out from 2 years ago. They're continuing, and in fact, they're actually growing, which is always the idea. So it's been 2 years since you were awarded the scholarship. Can you tell us a little bit about what that scholarship still holds in your life? Alma, can you tell us about what is it that the scholarship still means to you while you work here at Google?
Yeah, as I said before, to me the most important thing about the scholarship is the people that I have met through it. And after getting the scholarship, I was able to get involved in more initiatives for women in computing. For example, Luana and I attended the Grace Hopper Conference for Women in Computing in Houston last year, where we got to meet so many other women and attend so many other events. And I think being part of the scholars community now at Google means that I can also meet new scholars every other year, and that I've been from being a mentor myself by other Googlers to now become a mentor for new scholars, or even being here giving advice.
And what about you, Luana? What place does a scholarship hold at your life on campus currently?
It certainly holds a very special place in my heart. And as I said before, I think it's the confidence that I gained from receiving the scholarship still helps me today, and maybe even more so in the world of research, where the reward tends to come a bit later on in your career. And I do have to say, so the bursary that comes with the scholarship has helped me immensely. I was able to attend prestigious conferences in my research field and present my papers there, so that definitely was also very special.
Fantastic. So we know that getting awarded the scholarship is not like just a 1 month or a 2 month thing, but it's something that actually lasts much longer than that. My next question is to the both of you for the benefit of all our viewers out there. Can you tell us about what elements in your application made you a strong applicant in your opinion? We can start with you, Alma.
I think in my application I really focused on why I like computer science and how that was showing in the projects I was working on. As a volunteer, how those showed leadership, and also on the technical projects that I was working on. I made sure to explain why those were impactful, what my actual contribution was as opposed to other people's, and what the impact of those were.
Great. What about you, Luana?
Yeah, so I mean, I think there were two aspects of my application that made me feel like I was a good candidate for the scholarship. And the first was, as it is listed in the application kind of explanation, it was my strong technical background. So I felt like graduating the top of my class in University of Leicester and the good results I obtained in maths and computer science programming contests made me a suitable candidate for that, maybe together with the first papers I published throughout my PhD. And then secondly, so the Women Tech Makers Scholarship seeks evidence of leadership abilities in the applicant. So at the time of making the application, I was president of Cambridge University Entrepreneurs, which is a society run by students based at the University of Cambridge. So I was in charge of organizing a bunch of events, running a business competition, and even organizing a trip to Silicon Valley for the winners. So I felt that the leadership experience I got from being president of Q also would get me brownie points in the application.
Absolutely. So there we have it. Those are secrets from our very own scholars right here. You've heard it. My next question again is for the benefit of all our live stream viewers currently. Can you tell us a little bit more about what the scholars should be doing while they're writing their applications? Do you have any tips and recommendations for them? We'll begin with you, Luana.
Yeah, I mean, first tip is start your application today. The deadline is on December 11th, if I'm not mistaken, so which is less than a month away. There's still plenty of time to submit your application, but it's not something you write in a day, so be sure to start early. That would be maybe my first advice. And secondly, I think it's helpful to ask your friends, your family, loved ones to just give you a reason as to why you're amazing, because we tend to be sometimes more critical with ourselves in comparison to others. So it's always good to be confident when you're writing the application, and don't be afraid to let the world know how awesome you are.
That's great advice. What about you, Alma? What advice do you have for everybody?
I think my first tip would be to actually apply. I've seen so many people who think this is not for them, including myself years ago. So please, please consider applying. You're probably much better suited for the scholarship than you think, and just writing the application is a great experience. And while you're writing it, as I said before, make sure when you talk about projects that you explain what you did as opposed to other people, and also why was it impactful? What is it that you achieved afterwards?
That is great advice. And can I ask both of you how much time you took to write your application, if you remember?
Weeks.
Yeah, about a couple of weeks.
So we have from both our scholars, it definitely takes weeks to write a strong application. It's not something that you can do overnight. It requires time, energy, investment. So if you put that in, you'll definitely be able to submit a strong application. And the deadline, as they said, is December 11th. Just a reminder, in addition to the Women Tech Makers Scholars Program that's currently open, we have a few other scholarships as well. We have this Europe Students with Disability Scholarship open, and the Google Lime Scholarship in the US, which is the Students with Disability Scholarship for students in the US. And lastly, the Google Generation Scholarship, which is for underrepresented students in the US. You can find details for all 4 scholarships on g.co/scholarships. To check if you're eligible, just log in there and you'll find that they're pretty much open somewhere from right now up until the beginning to mid-December. So the time has come to, ask from all of you and see what you have in store for us. Whatever questions you have, just put them across to our moderators over there, and they will share it with us. All right, so our first question is from Vlachnaiska. I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly. So Vlachnaiska is asking us if I am going to repeat the question as is. I study CS at a small university. There are only few women students and we don't have any kind of club. How could one show the ability of leadership and passion for increasing the number of women in CS? That's a great question. Should I start, or would one of you want to begin? I can start, and feel free to add on to that. I think one of the key things that we look for in a potential scholar is the ability to actually make those changes. So where you see potential that there is something that is missing, and you can actually add value to that by starting a small club and growing that at scale, those are the kind of things we're looking at, where you probably have a bunch of women already pursuing CS. That's not a problem to solve. So we're looking for someone who's able to actually find out that this is the challenge, and they can actually make changes in such an environment by pursuing it, by starting clubs, by getting more women. The whole vision of the scholarship is to empower more women to be able to do it. Would you like to add to that?
Maybe
Yes.
one idea would be to also just get all your women in your department together for a coffee, or if you want to do something different, maybe go into a school, talk to a few women and tell them that computer science is great and that they should do it, and they can do it. So
Absolutely.
maybe reach out to a younger generation to convince them to pursue
Yeah, so
CS.
start with maybe like high school students, and then from there make changes. It doesn't necessarily have to be at a university level. You can pretty much start anywhere. And a lot of the initiatives, I'm sure that the two of you have also heard of, and what I've seen as well, have started small. So, something like a coffee, like it begins at that, and then it can pretty much impact thousands of people right after. Okay, let's move to our next question. It's from Jin Yang. Her question is, I was wondering how to demonstrate our leadership. Does it have to be related to computer science or just anything? Leadership in particular does not have to be just about increasing women in CS, but it has to be leadership that you've shown in any aspect of your life. But at the same time, we also see some kind of impact that you've already made to actually increase diversity in technology. But leadership as a whole could be, somewhere you stepped up and actually solved for a problem where there was a need for someone to do that.
Yeah, I agree. Even leading your group project at university, as you mentioned, maybe the idea of role models is really important.
Yeah.
So if someone really just sees a woman being a leader of a group project or a society or whatever that is, it's going to
Make some difference.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Our next question is from Sainid McLear. She's asking us, I'm Sainid from Trinity College, Dublin, Ireland. For my technical report, should I write about my technically most impressive project or the project I was most passionate about? Alma, do you want to take that?
Yeah, I think both are actually good. If you talk about a technical project that was difficult, that is great, especially if you explain why it was difficult and how you tackled those difficulties. But talking about a project you're passionate about is also great because it shows the passion you have for computer science. So I'm sure in the project you were passionate about, there were also difficult things. So you should also make sure to talk about those.
Absolutely. And our next question is from Rexina. Great question, Rexina. It is, what error do we have to definitely avoid in the application? Now, do you want to take that, Luana?
Don't undersell yourself. I think that's something we both mentioned. So I think there's a point in your life where you're like, I don't think I'm good enough to apply. So first apply and then don't undersell yourself. It's not, you have to be confident and tell people what you did to kind of get noticed.
Absolutely.
It's not a bad thing to just tell people how great you are.
Yeah. Our next question is about the retreat. Can you tell us a little bit more about what the retreat looks like, how long it is, and what happens at the retreat? Alma, do you want to take that?
Yeah, the retreat is like 2.5 days long. It takes place in one of the Google offices, and it is a mix of social activities where you get to know the other scholars and also Googlers who work on the university programs and Googlers who are engineers. And also technical talks where you learn about Google, what Google does, what working at Google is like, and also workshops about social skills or soft skills. So you actually gain that confidence that Luana was talking about.
That's great. And it's usually about 3 days in duration.
Yeah, it's about 3 days. So you have all the like hard work, technical talks in the morning, and then you have socials in the evening.
Yes. And you get to attend a retreat that's usually planned for the summer, so there's not, any missing of university involved. We plan it in a way that you can obviously attend as well because it's meant for all of you. Our next question is about what makes a good scholarship application. So the other extreme of this, which is of course, as Luana mentioned, speak as much as you can about the things that you've done well. And I think there are three things that stand out in a good application. That's already one. And the other two are prior leadership experience that you've had. Speak specifically of those examples and what kind of impact you made through it. And the third would be examples of how you've already showcased your potential to increase diversity in the field of technology. Our next question is from Andrea, and she's asking us, how do you define technical skills? I don't have the strongest set of technical skills, and my experience has largely been focused on teaching. Do you want to take that, Luana?
Sure. So I guess you are doing some sort of degree in computer science, or you have a background in computer science, so I'm pretty sure you have a strong set of technical skills. And if you're teaching them, that's, I think, even more of an example that you're good at it and that you can teach other people how to do it. So I think teaching is a great example of how you can pass on technical skills from my perspective.
Absolutely. Our next question is from Fiona. She's asking us a little bit about the time commitment of actually being a scholar. So when you're a scholar, she's asking us, how do you actually set up those community initiatives in addition to attending classes at university, and at the same time being able to make a difference? Alma, do you want to take that?
Yeah, I think you don't have to fear that it's a big time commitment. It very much depends on the time you have and what you can put into it. And it doesn't matter if it's just a little bit of time or a lot of time, you are making a difference. So it's not like you're forced to put a lot of time into it. It's just about putting the passion you have and the time you have into doing something.
Absolutely. So that is the time that we had set aside for our question and answer. Thank you so much to both of you for taking out the time to not just go through your experiences as scholars, but also sharing your tips and your recommendations about what makes a strong applicant. Next up is feedback that you can actually share with us about this live stream as well. Tell us how we did, tell us things that we can improve for the future by just logging on to this code, or instead clicking on the link that's there. And as a last reminder, the scholarship is open up until 11th of December. You have less than a month to do it. There's enough time. And at many points, you may feel that you're at odds given that the field you're in, and like there'll be things that are going against you. But just remember that all of us here are present to support you. And we really hope that you give this a shot, take out the time for the application, apply, and that we get to see you maybe at the retreat next year. So thank you so much for logging in, and thank you to our chat moderators as well for answering questions for us. All the very best.